The following program is a high-definition production of Blue Ridge PBS.
Hello, and welcome to What It Takes. I'm Dr. Rose Martin, and I've invited our bullying panel back today to talk about cyberbullying. That's the type of bullying where we use digital media for cruel gossip or sending insulting messages to trick somebody or fight online. Today's guests are tackling the issue to help you help your kids be safe. In today's world, kids' online lives are an extension of their offline lives. So I've got a question for you, actually a few. Do you know the number of texts an average teen sends per day? Have you ever heard of flaming? Do you know what sexting is? And if you saw the letters YBS or ZERG on the screen, would you know what they are? Well, if you're lost or a little confused, don't worry. We're going to give you those answers a little bit later. But let's get started. So graciously agreeing to come back to the table to talk about cyberbullying today is Dr. Joseph Jones from Radford University, a research expert, and welcome.
Thank you.
Glad to have you back. And we also have Jim DeLalio, and thank you so much for coming back. We sure appreciate you having the voice of the parent here today. And we have Dr. Asia Jones, Executive Director for Student Support Services at Roanoke City Public Schools. So to the panel, welcome. Are you ready to get started?
Yeah, sure.
Absolutely.
Why not?
All right. Well, today we're talking about instances where technology, and usually that means computers or tablets or cell phones, are used to harass, threaten, humiliate, or hassle someone, adults included. So we're going to be asking some questions. We're going to be talking about warning signs. We're going to help you decode teen text and talk about some fast facts and give you some great information. So stay with us. So I would ask my panel, why is cyberbullying still such a problem?
It's anonymous. I mean, you're not engaging face to face when you, like I can bully him personally, then that's more personable. But if I send him a nasty text, I mean, I can be at my house, he's in his house, you know, or same thing, or she wants to send me something back. I mean, there's no person-to-person contact. That's
Yeah,
how
it's
it-
easy.
It's easy.
And it takes away the emotional contact that's there. It's harder for me to punch you when you have tears in your eyes.
Right.
It's a lot easier for me to send you a horrible text or to post something on Facebook about you because there's that emotional disconnect there.
Right.
And I can do it and nobody will know that I did it. And that's
It's one-on-one.
And our students are so connected, or anyone's so connected now with the cell phones, the computer, you mentioned the tablet, passing along a message that someone may have originated, posting on Facebook or other social media sites. It's that ease of access, and it does take the emotion out, and sometimes students don't think before they send, and I think that's what really contributes to this.
And you know, Joseph, you had mentioned that no one will really ever know. What are the warning signs? What do we look for to know if kids are actually being victims of cyberbullying?
I think the same, from my research and working with teachers and of course from a parental standpoint, I'm not that expert, but kids withdraw with all types of bullying. Kids shut down. They act differently. There may be eating changes in eating behaviors, academic behaviors, and all of those things. As you were pointing out earlier, when a kid gets a text, there's that fear there. You know, there's that, it could just be a quick little jump.
They don't want to look at, you notice they're not on their phone as much.
Yeah.
They may not be going on Facebook as much. You know, their habits, their, I guess, internet use or their tech habits, I don't know what you call it anymore. I mean, they may not be doing as much. They're, you know, they're not talking to their friends online anymore as much because they're afraid what someone's going to put something on there or say something.
As with traditional bullying, targets avoid all contact. So I don't have to deal with it if I don't sign on to Facebook. I won't see it there, and it's kind of that out of sight, out of mind kind of mentality. If I don't go in the bathroom, nobody's going to punch me or spit on me or such as that if I don't pick up my phone I can avoid it that way.
And I encourage parents to be preventative in knowing what accounts their child has, whether it's a Facebook account. It used to be MySpace, which is not as popular now, but there are several other social media sites that are out there. To be mindful, to know what their accounts are, also to recognize that sometimes a savvy student may have one Facebook account that mom or a family member may be a friend to, and then they have another Facebook account. So to be able to put controls on the computers, to have the look force and monitor how often the child is going on the computer, monitor the computer access, whether it's in the living room or the family room where it can be monitored, and also with the text messaging, as you said, how many text messages is the child sending, and to be able to monitor what that is. You know, if it's an enormous amount, are they healthy text or unhealthy?
Well, see, because like my boys, they all have Facebooks, but my wife and I have Facebook, and the reason we got Facebook was because they had Facebook. And the agreement was you can have Facebook as long as I can be your friend on Facebook. So I mean, we're all each other's friends just to make sure. One of my other kids has a Twitter, so I have a Twitter, and I follow him on Twitter. It's not that we don't trust them, or it's not a real trust issue. It's more like a safety, is the way I explain to them. And I've explained to them when they first started getting online, like, the thing is with the computer is like we're all here talking in person, but when you're online talking, you don't know who you're talking to. And with Facebook, you'll get friend requests all the time. If you don't know them, you don't accept them. I mean.
So monitoring who are the friends, and also if you are monitoring your child's Facebook account to see, is it recent activity? If it's not recent activity, chances are they could have another account. But to see who are the friends and identify what type of individuals those may be, and to discuss what cyberbullying is. I know I was talking with a student once before, and they forwarded a message that was, less than appropriate about someone else. And I said, well, do you think that was cyberbullying, being that you forwarded that to someone else? And I said, oh no, I didn't say it first. But you're a part of that. So recognize being a part of it. You're continuing the discussion, and if someone sent that message about you, how would that make you feel?
And how do you help them see the harm that's associated with something like that when they think, well, it's not a problem?
Again, it's having students to be empathetic with each other, to put themselves from that perspective, using the I statements, or how would that make you feel, or why do you think that? Just having these conversations so that they can really think before they send, or see it from someone else's perspective.
I think a lot of times, I don't think sometimes kids, even middle schoolers, elementary and high school kids, there's a disconnect sometimes between, like you just said, I didn't say it, so I'm not the one. So I'm just letting everyone else know what Asia's saying about Joe. I'm just telling, this is what Asia sent me about Joseph. It wasn't me, so they don't. It's that weird disconnect they have, and I just don't think they quite understand. And some adults don't understand.
And you had said earlier that you have a Facebook account and you have a Twitter account because your boys do. What about parents who don't have that technological expertise? How would you tell them to still stay involved and to help fight this cyberbullying?
Well, you need to, if you're experts have said for years, is that if you have a home computer your kid can get on, put it in a place where they can't shut a door, they can't, have it visual so you can walk up and they. Because kids will come up, like you said, kids are so, they're so quick at hiding things, and you can see where they're at. And there's even programs out there where you can put on your program the kids, and it's not that we don't, as a parent, you're not trusting your kids, you're trying to keep them safe, because there's so many predators out there, so many creeps, that's something else, but it's just, you can track where they go. If they are able to just have the secret accounts, you can go on a program that monitors where they go on your internet and stuff, and you can see where they go. and you can find where they're going, but you just got to talk to your kids.
Yeah, open dialogue. I think that's
Right.
so important because we say now, keep the computer in a place where others, you can monitor the time. Well, we have smartphones.
Yep.
So, you know, take the computer away, Mom, that's fine. But I have my phone that I can easily access internet or a friend's phone. So I think it's just the open dialogue and a discussion. And again, having them see it from someone else's perspective and then talk about the legal implications.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
there are some, you know, laws that are on the books for using technology and using it in inappropriate ways to be able to speak with the student about
And
that.
let me talk to Joseph about that, because if we look at consequences, if we look at taking responsibility, what types of advice or what types of things can you share with parents and with the panel and with people who might be watching about when to get involved, how to get involved, how to take responsibility?
I think that one of the big things exists because parents are not involved. They have to begin thinking about this. They have to have those conversations need to exist in schools, but they also need to be reinforced at home. So you have to be able to have that dialogue back and forth. In terms of them getting involved, anytime the first symptom of something happening, they have to engage in those conversations. They have to engage in conversations with school leaders, with teachers, anyone who comes in contact with the children, to be able to open that kind of dialogic space there. There are apps that you can download onto their phones that will tell you every text message that is sent. Again, it's not, I don't trust you, it's more of a,
Safety.
I want to make sure that you're not doing something that you can't cognitively understand, that if you engage in this activity, it's going to cause you problems later on in your life. So I think we need to begin those. That's where a parent can begin.
And you had mentioned not sharing if you get something, you know, don't open it. What are some of the things you've shared with your boys about specific actions to take?
Well, it's kind of like, you know, thank God the laws are finally catching up to the internet. It's funny, like the technology's
You're
growing
right.
so fast, and when all this was going, the laws were like old. Now they're caught up, but the thing is, it's just like the sexting and the pictures. Like if, you know, if a girl sent one of my boys a picture, inappropriate picture of them, they open it up. Now they are in possession of child pornography since the girl's under 18. And if he sends it to his friend, then he could be charged for distributing child pornography naked, and it goes on and on and on. And then he could be a registered sex offender for just opening a picture that someone sent him. So I always tell them, do not, if a girl or, you know, someone says she's gonna send you a picture, don't open it. If if she's saying send you something, like say no thank you, you know, but.
And you
that's
can block
hard.
folks from
Oh yeah, because I
Facebook
have
as well.
Absolutely,
sometimes
yes.
a boy was sending another boy with one of my sons was getting in, you know, boys will be boys. I mean, not that it dismissed it, but was starting to send in some nasty, and he couldn't take it anymore, and he showed me it, and I went, okay. So we went onto our account, blocked that kid's number, and we, in that instance, we knew the parents and called them right away and talked to the other parent. And he checked the kid's phone and was shocked, was very embarrassed. But you know, that's where the openness and the dialogue comes in. Is you know, and some kids aren't, even though you have a great dialogue and communication with your kids, they're not going to come forward because they're embarrassed. So you got to kind of, and you can tell their mood starts to change.
Absolutely.
And that's when you got to be the parent and push and dig, you know, what's actually going on here.
And you know, as a parent and as a school administrator and even as a researcher, we've got to be internet savvy. We've got to try to know what is it that they're writing so it doesn't seem like some kind of code. And when we look at some of those acronyms and we look at some of that text, you know, how do parents know exactly what it is and what the kids are talking about? Interestingly enough, we were pulling together a few of those internet acronyms about that kids know. And so the number 182. If you were to see it, I thought, well, I don't know what that means.
Nor do I.
It means, yeah, I hate you. So if you see that as a parent, you're thinking, okay, I wouldn't have thought there was anything about it, right? Or PIR. They're writing something and all of a sudden you see PIR.
Parent in room.
Parent in room,
that
absolutely.
Was it PO, parent over shoulder?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, parent over shoulder. And there's so many of these. How do we become internet savvy enough to stay one step ahead? What should parents, what should teachers, what should community members do?
I think you have to be proactive. You have to, I mean, there's so much written about how kids construct literacy based on these acronyms. These things have become part of our world, and it's, as parents, we need to engage. If it means going to Google and pulling up a list, and it's learning a totally different language, and understanding, because you're going to come in contact with these acronyms, with this type of literacy, because kids are using it.
I did that one time, Google text acronym, just to see.
Yeah,
I was
there's
just-
thousands.
Yeah, I couldn't
absolutely.
believe it, and I'm like,
Yes.
how do you get that from that? That doesn't make sense.
Well, and there are internet safety. We have our school resource officers and our DARE officers that are in the schools, and rolled into their curriculum is also internet safety, and we talk about that in school as well. But I do appreciate from the parent perspective and even the researcher that it starts at home. And as we buy our students electronics, that comes great responsibility. It's shared responsibility. But there are sites, if parents are proactive, they can go online through Google and look up internet safety or the acronyms or Facebook safety. I believe there's an age limit, that minimum age limit, but I know younger students or children are actually have Facebook accounts. So it's just the open dialogue and asking, well, what does that mean exactly?
Okay, so you've asked, you've found out what that means. You are very surprised and disheartened. So now what do? Your child, your student, someone in your community is a target. How do you reach out, and what are some of those tips for kids who are sitting here or adults who are targets? What do they do?
Because I do know, just from personal experience, one of my other sons was having a problem. I think it was a boy was jealous of a girl he was dating, was just bombarding him, and then he would like stop. So, and then it got a little more almost threatening nature. And he shared it with me, so we called the police, and they came out to our house, and they said, as long as once he responded, then it became a conversation. But they really couldn't do anything until it was threatening. And then they said block his numbers, which we did, but he stopped, and they said every time he starts texting you and it was getting a little aggressive, don't respond. And then we called, and then they would call the number back. And so this young man got a couple of phone calls from the police, but back off, you're on borderline harassment here.
And how do you handle it at home with privacy controls and passwords at school, for instance? And when we're trying to keep kids safe and we're trying to teach them those specific things, what do you do? What kind of limits do you set?
Know your password, don't share your password. I mean, they're grilled at that at school, I know that. I mean, orientating, school, I know you guys do that all the time.
And we all sign acceptable use policies from every adult in the school to all of the students, and educate them. What does that mean exactly? And with how to protect themselves you can block particular users. If it's something that's going on at home and it's not a school-related issue, to talk with parents, talk with other relatives, report it to the police. If it does become a school issue, then the school administrators are there to address that situation as well.
And I think that's important because Virginia has some of the strongest anti-bullying and cyberbullying laws in the country. So if you're suspecting that and you know for sure that your child has become a target, you have to go to the administrator, you have to go to the teachers, you have to talk to these people and say, this is what we found out, now do something about it. And if they don't, then you go through the next steps until something is addressed. I think you also need to set up some type of quote unquote counseling for the target, whether that be someone in the school, a school counselor, a school psychologist, or someone outside, because I argue that kid has gone through so much stuff that they're not telling you, the dad. They're only telling you part of what's happened. And so they're going to need that outlet to express everything and know it's going to be a safe place to do so.
And expressing everything, if it became dialogue, text to text, Facebook statement to Facebook statement, and then as a parent, tell me the entire story.
Exactly.
This is what they texted to you. What was your response, or what responses have you had to anyone else, so that they can see that entire umbrella, have that shared responsibility if indeed it is shared, and so that we can all act accordingly.
So my question for you has been in school. Like if I'm in school and I text him something during the school day, because kids sneak their phones, and texting and bullying someone at school, is that a punishable offense there at school? How do you guys handle that on a school level? I mean, outside of school, because a lot of times it's done outside, but how does it handle within a school system?
Our policy is that we don't have electronic devices on during instructional time.
Okay.
So it depends on what the text may have been. Were they just, hey, what are you doing after school today? Or did they pose or make a threat?
Right.
We do work very closely with school resource officers. If it's a threatening type behavior, we have protocols to find out if the student poses a threat or if they just made a threat, and can address it that way.
Okay.
Let's talk about consequences. Let's talk about these action steps. What do kids do? When do you ignore it? When do you tell the whole story? When do you retaliate, if you do retaliate? And when do you call the police? How do they discern what to do when?
I think that almost comes down to the individual child, I would say. In the relationship with the parent, because it always goes back to like we were talking about last time. When the parent steps in, then it becomes more of an adult issue. Dealing like we dealt with it one way with calling the parent because we knew them. But if you don't, I think that's a hard thing to do.
Just save the evidence
for
future?
Yeah, and the majority of the time, I believe the parent is the individual paying for the cell phone, because we're not just talking about those who are being victims of cyberbullying, but those who are sending the messages. So it's monitoring that, it's removal of those privileges. It might be for a period of time, it might be taking the phone away. I believe severe consequences should be there if there's threatening behavior, and that's when the police would want to be involved. If it's just you're ostracizing or it's not a level of harassment, oftentimes the police, that's not a punishable or criminal offense. It can be handled through whether it's an outside home counseling or inside school or discussion, open dialogue, and protecting students with, should this occur in the future, what are some of the things that you think you can do to be a part of the solution as opposed to a part of the problem?
What happens when things are happening outside of school and they bring it into school? How do you react to that and discipline students if it affects the learning environment?
If it affects the learning environment, then there are steps based on what the situation may be that the administrators would be responsible to follow through with. If it's an outside of school issue and it's not creating a disruption within the school, then that is something the parents need to take responsibility for, and we can certainly offer suggestions and point them in the direction as to where they should go and what they should do, as Jim mentioned that he's done with his child.
Because in reality, the school, I guess from my understanding, the school has no authority, if you will, to address those issues if they happen.
Well, it's a personal, outside of school matter.
Yeah.
What about retaliation? And more so than that, I guess getting kids to stop and think before they post?
That is, I don't know, back 25 years ago, 30 years ago, there were no cell phones. It was handled on the schoolyard bully. It was usually handled with a, different. You try and tell your kids, and once you retaliate, and the thing with the internet, once you post something, even though you try and take it, take it down fast, it could be out there forever. Right. If you post like a nasty video, online, it's gone. It's out there. You can't get it back. Best thing is to do is, counseling, talk to them, explain to them.
I think kids also need to understand more than anything, everything they have, everything they do has a consequence in today's age. When it's time to get a job, they're going to be Googled. Employers are going to look at Facebook pages. So we need to teach our kids in school and at home that whatever you release into the world is going to be there, and that may have negative consequences on the rest of your life, whether it be sexting and being listed on a sex offenders list, or And kids, I don't think, really cognitively think about that. In so many ways, boys are being boys. They're sending back pictures.
Yeah.
But the reality is, if they're put on that list, they don't realize the things legally that they have to do and how that really is going to impact them.
Well, I've even heard, I read a story the other day that some employees are even like, if you came in for the job, they're asking for people's
Passwords
for
look at them,
Facebook,
yes.
just so they could check
Absolutely.
out their page.
I mean, that's now going through the courts, but
Yeah,
that's a
but
privacy issue. But until the courts rule, a lot
Right.
of employers are doing that.
So as this online future personality and your reputation is being established, let's leave people with just one thought of what they can do from each of your perspectives as a parent, as an administrator, as a researcher. What would you like to leave them with?
I would just say with your children, you just explain to them for every consequence there's an action, for every action there's a reaction sometimes. And with parents, you got to know what your kids are posting, what they're doing online. I mean, it's not a trust issue, it's a safety issue.
How about from a school perspective?
Yeah, and I would build on that and saying, every opportunity is an opportunity for learning. Responding is not always punitive, in a punitive way, but for parents to become tech savvy. There are resources out there to share with, these are look-fors, to have open dialogue with your child and to monitor and work closely if it's becoming a great issue and they feel that it's spilling into the school and they're looking for help. There's always someone there that can help or point them in the right direction or intervene with the child.
And how about from your perspective,
All of
Joseph?
that.
Okay.
Also,
Good.
just be kind.
Right.
Teach your
Yeah.
kids to just be kind. 'Cause
Let's leave it there. That's a wonderful way to end it. And I would say to everyone, gone are the days when a child's home is the refuge from the playground or the neighborhood bullies. There are no off hours, as we've heard today. The popularity of social media, all of our kids are potential targets all day and every day. We all need to get involved. Parents, educators, counselors, social media companies, the community. Let's imagine an environment where kids feel safe talking with adults because they're confident that steps are going to be taken to resolve the situations they're dealing with. We have the power to create it. Let's make it happen. Thank you for joining us today. I look forward to seeing you next time on What It Takes.